Minnesota candidate bows out over Republican response to Pretti shooting. Republican candidate Chris Madel says he is ending his campaign for governor of Minnesota following the shooting of Alex Pretti in Minneapolis by federal agents. Madel said late on Monday he would step down from the campaign, citing the negative impact of the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement's, ICE, Operation Metro Surge on the city of Minneapolis, where 2 people have been killed by federal agents. I cannot support the National Republicans' stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so, Madel said in a nearly 11-minute video shared on X.
I love Minnesota. I was born and raised here. My immediate family lives here. My extended family lives here. It's my home. I decided to run for governor because I firmly believe that Minnesota needs serious and systemic change. Fraud is rampant. Our streets are unsafe. We need to honor and respect law enforcement much more. Our education results lag behind Mississippi. Our taxes are absurdly high, and we're losing great businesses and people because of those taxes and ever-increasing regulations. I believe Minnesota has seriously lost its way. Since I announced my candidacy on December 1, I am extremely proud of what we've accomplished. I started as a relative unknown candidate and emerged as a leading Republican contender in less than 2 months. Honestly, we've accomplished more in less than 2 months than I ever dreamed possible, and I cannot thank my friends and supporters enough for getting me here. You've been there for me, and I will forever be grateful. But today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have 2 primary reasons for this decision. Number 1, I cannot support the National Republicans' stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. I support the originally stated goals of Immigration's and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. And I've seen many examples of ICE arresting non-U.S. citizens in Minnesota convicted of serious crimes, including murder, rape, and child sexual assault. No reasonable person should want these people here, and I am glad that they are gone. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that need only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional, and it's wrong. Weaponizing criminal investigations against political opponents is unconstitutional, regardless of who is in power. Republicans and Democrats alike have engaged in this misconduct, and both must be held to the same standard. They need to do better. And I have read about and I have spoken to countless United States citizens who have been detained in Minnesota due to the color of their skin. I personally have spoken to several law enforcement officers, some Hispanic and some Asian, who have been pulled over by ICE on pretextual stops. Driving while Hispanic is not a crime. Either is driving while Asian. At the end of the day, I have to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I believe I did what was right. And I am doing that today. Now, the second reason I'm ending my campaign is that I am, above all else, a pragmatist. And the reality is that the National Republicans have made it nearly impossible for a Republican to win a statewide election in Minnesota. It is a simple fact. And I want to make clear that I believe many unfairly do not provide the president with nearly enough credit for some of the things he has done for our country. For example, I watched as many protested Israel's treatment of Gazans and called for a ceasefire. I watched with disbelief and dismay when several of our educational institutions, including the University of Minnesota and my alma mater, Macalester College, did little to nothing to ensure the safety of Jewish students throughout that process. But when the president obtained an historic ceasefire, these pro-Gaza protesters went completely silent. I've also been listening to presidents since the 1980s complain that NATO countries are not paying their agreed upon share of defense spending. The president is the first to induce NATO countries to increase their defense spending as a percentage of their respective GDPs so the United States doesn't have to. The president has also signed the Bipartisan Take It Down Act in May of 2025, the Bipartisan Medal of Honor Act in December of 25, and just in this month, he signed bipartisan funding of resources for public safety, energy independence, national security, and environmental stewardship. Plus, in the past week, he proposed capping credit card interest rates at 10% for a year. Even Bernie Sanders seems to like that idea. Now, with that said, Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota has been an unmitigated disaster. Make no mistake, Republicans in our state have also screwed up. Minnesota House Republican leadership, including two of the Republican candidates for governor, have done nothing to properly investigate Minnesota fraud. Instead, they've chosen to write strongly worded letters to people and ask the federal government to do their jobs. They've asked for a new bureaucrat, an inspector general, to come in. The remedy for bad government is not more government. We need to do better in this state and not have to rely on a YouTuber in order to ferret out fraud in our state. Our government has failed us, Republicans and Democrats. Now, I'm not withdrawing my candidacy because of any existing or new entrant in the race, and that includes Senator Klobuchar. Truth be told, I beat her in the courtroom, and if this trajectory continues in my campaign, and if Minnesota was not being substantially impacted by Washington, D.C., I believe I would have beat her at the ballot box. I've built a career frequently representing the underdog. I have placed my reputation on the line time and time again for my clients. I truly love being a lawyer. It provides you with the forum to stand up for those that need help. Whether it's representing the hero trooper Ryan Lonergan, a Somali teenager alleged to have tweeted threats to a federal prosecutor, Liz Collin, or Alpha News, I have repeatedly stood up to defend our great nation's constitutional protections, even when many said it would hurt my business or my career. This month, I helped the ICE agent Jonathan Ross fill out a form to obtain U.S. Department of Justice legal representation if he's ever sued or charged with a crime. I did this just like I have helped hundreds of other people find good lawyers, including on immigration matters. I do this because I believe the constitutional right to counsel is sacrosanct, and it is indispensable to protecting individual liberty against the overwhelming power of the government. True Americans love justice. Justice requires excellent legal representation. After ICE released my name to the media and said that I was helping Agent Ross, I was honored to receive communications from dozens of attorneys that congratulated me for helping a person in need, particularly during a gubernatorial campaign. But 3 lawyers publicly criticized me for helping Agent Ross. As lawyers, we take an oath to uphold the United States and Minnesota state constitutions. These 3 lawyers betrayed that oath. History crowns the courageous and condemns the mob. These lawyers chose the mob. I am proud to continue the great tradition of President John Adams. Criminal defense lawyers, including the brave federal and state public defenders across our great state. President Adams and these lawyers should be counted as champions of our Constitution and the rule of law. One of my most favorite questions to ask my conservative friends who say denigrating things about criminal defense lawyers, including public defenders, is to ask this. If Jesus Christ were walking the earth today, would he be a prosecutor or a public defender? We all know the answer. So today, I end my candidacy as governor of the great state of Minnesota. Believe me, if I could reach into my pocket and pull out the necessary many millions of dollars to run as an independent, I would. But again, reality guides my decision. One final note. I ask all Minnesotans to please do more to respect and thank our state and local law enforcement officers, particularly those in the Minneapolis Police Department. We know that federal immigration operations have led to increased street-level activity, community disruptions, and complaints about tactics that affect the public trust. We also know that the governor, the attorney general, and the mayor of Minneapolis have prohibited state and local law enforcement from assisting their federal counterparts, even when those federal law enforcement officers have been physically attacked by agitators. This has created extreme challenges for local police. They have to balance following state orders, maintaining safety and relationships in diverse communities, and navigating the fallout from federal actions occurring within their jurisdictions without full coordination or cooperation. They're stuck between the proverbial rock and a hard place. It is unfair, and our hearts should go out to them. Mine certainly does. Please remember that these cops are the good guys. They're trying to protect you. Please understand and appreciate the difficult circumstances they have been placed. Please thank them for their service. I again want to thank all who have supported me. I will never forget your help, your encouragement, and your service. I will also be returning every penny of the money contributed to my campaign. You should not have to pay for my decision to withdraw. So thank you. God bless you, and God bless Minnesota. We certainly need it.
Madel, a lawyer who represented an ICE agent who shot dead U.S. citizen Renee Good in Minnesota in early January, said he supports deporting the worst of the worst from the state, but Operation Metro Surge had gone far beyond its stated focus on public safety threats since it began in December. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That is wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that needs only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional, and that's wrong, Madel says in the video. Madel said the party had made it nearly impossible for Republicans like him to win a statewide election in Minnesota, even as the Democratic Party in the state is embroiled in a sweeping corruption scandal. Madel's decision comes just days after U.S. Border Patrol agents shot dead Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, while he was filming an Operation Metro Search patrol in Minneapolis on Saturday. The shooting unleashed a wave of outrage across the U.S., as well as questions about how it was handled by top White House officials such as Kristi Noem, who heads the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Noem and her department, which oversees ICE and Customs and Border Protection, CBP, were quick to place the blame on Pretti in the aftermath of the shooting, who she accused of brandishing a weapon at Border Patrol officers and engaging in domestic terrorism.
With respect to the shooting in Minneapolis, we're seeing massive outrage from mainstream media and the left, but I'm just wondering, where was that outrage when Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was executed by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who she posed no threat to in the U.S. Capitol?
Well, you raise a very important point, which I also believed I just raised as well in those opening remarks, in that there has no doubt been selective outrage by the liberal biased media in picking and choosing victims and highlighting their stories. And as I've said, President Trump does not want any Americans to lose their lives in the streets of America and in American communities across the country. He believes what happened on Saturday is a tragedy, but every life is equal to President Trump, and that's why the lives of Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray continue to matter to him and be an utmost priority to him to this very day. And it's unfortunate that we did not see the same type of sensationalist media coverage over the tragic deaths of those innocent American women and girls across the country as we are in the wake of this tragedy that took place.
Pretti was a licensed gun owner and armed at the time of his killing. Video evidence shows he was not holding his gun at the time he was shot. Instead, CBP agents can be seen disarming Pretti before shooting him multiple times. Richard Painter, a law professor at the University of Minnesota, told Al Jazeera that Noam and others had broken with traditional protocol following a civilian shooting. The response of the Homeland Secretary there was very offensive and off the cuff. When you have a shooting of a civilian by a law enforcement officer, there should not be comment until the facts come out, said Painter, who served as chief White House ethics lawyer from 2005 to 2007 under President George W. Bush. Noam's remarks and the narrative around the shooting drew rare criticism from Republicans, some of whom took issue with the characterization of Pretti's gun at the scene. Republicans such as Senators Bill Cassidy and Lisa Murkowski, Representative Thomas Massey, and traditionally conservative organizations like the National Rifle Association have all pushed back and alluded to Pretti's right to bear arms under the U.S. Constitution. Lawfully carrying a firearm does not justify federal agents killing an American, especially as video footage appears to show after the victim had been disarmed, Murkowski wrote on X. Senator Tom Tillis, another Republican, also appeared to tacitly criticize Trump officials on X, writing that any administration official who rushes to judgment and tries to shut down an investigation would do a disservice to the president and the nation. Cassidy, Murkowski, and Tillis are among a small group of congressional Republicans who have called for an in-depth investigation into Pretti's shooting. David Smith, an expert in U.S. politics and foreign policy at the University of Sydney in Australia, told Al Jazeera that silence elsewhere in the Republican Party also spoke volumes. The fact that most Republicans are really quiet about it is in itself a very telling sign, Smith said. Because of the fact the Department of Homeland Security suggested that, because Alex Pretti was carrying a gun, therefore he was a terrorist, a lot of Republicans are really worried about what their pro-gun constituents are going to think, he said. Smith said disquiet had spread beyond the pro-gun lobby as well, to other corners of the Republican Party that fear government overreach. They're looking at this situation in American cities, where you have armed federal troops wearing masks with no accountability whatsoever, using violence in almost a seemingly random way, he continued. This really looks like the government just throwing its weight around in ways that are dangerous to ordinary people.